That's the entrepreneurial spirit, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's trying to find something that's just a little bit cutting edge, a little bit different. And that's saying, I'm just going to stay home today and hope it happens for me. No. There's some point in your life where you start recognizing what stress really is and you become aware of it.
Hello, everyone. Today, we're very happy to have Jeff Stromgren, the Community Connection and Healthy Living Coordinator from School District 43. He's a teacher by trade, but in many occasions, he demonstrates a great entrepreneurial spirit. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So your title is Community Connection and Healthy Living Coordinator.
Yeah.
Very long title.
Yeah.
So how do you see a sense of belonging related to your position?
The idea behind my job is that we're trying to build opportunities for kids to connect to opportunities, new ideas, thoughts, and people in their community. And the overall kind of big outcome around that is living in a way that's healthy for them and healthy for their community.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of people begin to say nowadays children begin to not have a sense of community with where they live. I think particularly in this community or in Canada is more obvious. What do you think is the cause? Why did that happen?
First of all, I'll challenge that a little bit. I think people do have a sense of what their community is. I think there's less of a emphasis for kids to, on their own and with what they've learned is reach out and find out all about it and who's in it and what's going on around it. And that's the part that I think is changing a little bit is that we have strong communities, like all the Tri-Cities communities are strong communities and they have good community assets that families can utilize to help their children grow and learn and thrive. But to get the kids themselves to look up away from what they're doing, look out into their community and find the people and the things that are going to help them move forward. I think that's when it comes up to the adults and the people in the community to kind of show them and be ready for when they do look up and give them opportunities to learn about the things that are out there. And so that's really the work that I'm doing, right? Is I'm trying to bring these things in the community to make them more available to families and to kids, and so that the kids can take advantage of it and learn that they can look to their community for so many of the things that they need in their lives.
So how do you see that is going to develop a child's development?
Okay, so with each age that a child reaches, we look for these markers. Like what are some of the things that are important that we look for? And in my world, in community development and the people that are kind of looking at how we build a community to best serve our children, we look at these markers for indications about how well we're doing sometimes, right? We have lots of different little measures of them, but a good example of one of the measures that I like is there's a stat I read once. I'm not going to quote where it's from, but I'm pretty sure it was from the Healthy Early Learning Partnership at UBC. Possibly one of its founders and a guy named Clive. he said something like, by time a kid's 8 years old, okay, by the time they're 8 years old, the best measure of their success for the future. So what it's going to look like for when they're in grade 8. Okay, so when they're 8, that's grade 3. Okay, the best measure of trying to figure out what their success level is going to be by the time they're, what is that, grade 8? Probably 13. Okay, so 5 years later. What's the best thing to look at an 8-year-old to kind of determine what that success is going to look like? And they say the best thing is connectivity. So how well they connect to other kids, other adults, people they don't know, people they do know, and what their level of connectivity looks like. They say that within the adult world, they should have they should be able to name 2 to 4 adults that really care about them. They should be able to name them. Who are they, right? And they should have a friendship group that is in line with their values. You know what I mean? Like they're connected to a group of kids that they like and they care about and understand. Yeah. But also curious about ones that they don't know. It makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So these kids that are the most well socially adjusted at 8 years old prove to be the ones that have the best success by the time they're in grade 8 or they're 13 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, so that's why it's important to us that we do this work, right?
Yeah, that's very interesting. So contrast to like how kids nowadays, you contrast to your upbringing. Actually, I think your
Yeah.
upbringing is, I don't know, in a sense it's very different, but in a sense it's also very the same. I would think.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in this area, right? I grew up in
Yeah.
Port Moody, and so it's impossible for me to do the work that I've done over these years, especially working at Port Moody Secondary, where I
Yeah.
used to go to school and all that jazz. Uh, it's impossible for me not to compare, right?
Okay.
So I have to be able to compare, right? So
Okay.
yeah, I did grow up in this area, and it is still a suburb of Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
But it's on its own. The city itself and the area around us has grown up a ton. I mean,
Yeah.
evidenced by SkyTrain,
Yeah.
bigger buildings like everywhere. We're growing to the sky now,
Yeah.
confined by mountains and rivers. So we got to grow to the sky,
Yeah.
and so it's very different kind of place. We have way more people.
Mhm.
I don't think the parkland in Port Moody has changed. There's no more parks in Port Moody, like
No.
more park space and outdoor space. So we're sharing our space with more people now. So
Hmm.
those are some of the things that I've noticed in growing up. And I think that just with the add-in of many people, and of course you gotta weave in many cultures too.
Yeah.
Vancouver is a global city destination for people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And our cities and the Tri-Cities is a cross section of all those cultures that have come to meet here. So more people, more cultures, more things to do, more information.
Yeah.
Right? It's changed.
Yeah. But how would you describe your upbringing?
My upbringing was, in a two-parent home, with kids going to school, and we walked to school, and we took the bus to school, and we did our schooling and our sports in schools and sports in the communities, and that was all kind of my model for doing it. I think that I developed a strong sense of independence and understanding about where I wanted to go through that process of being social. Right? I think that my social game is strong. It's like I've always really reached out to other people with problems. Always reached out to other people with when I had needs or that. And so I was never left without a lot of people to help me. And our community was full of people that helped me kind of understand what I thought and still think to this day what's important. And these things we talked about earlier, these connections. And still,
So do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a strong thing for for growing up?
Yeah, I think you need a bit of both. I think you need, the anchor of where you came from, along with the call of what's possible beyond your own neighborhood.
Yeah.
I got a lot of that. I went away to university for that, and I left the Port Moody safe haven for the big city of Montreal to go to university, and I think that was helpful for me to gain perspective. But let me tell you, coming back and working in Port Moody after I went to university, it did feel like home, and there's a reason for it. It's like this Tri-Cities in general is a pretty nice place to live.
So how would you describe your family?
Well, my family was big and split up and rejoined and welded back together in so many different ways. Like, so my dad had 3 marriages growing up. So I lived in significantly different families as we went along. But it was all very cordial. There's no problems for that for me. To me, it was going on with so many other families that was pretty normal, actually. Like, oh, who's that? Your stepsister, your half brother, all these things. Right? Yeah, I've got my sister from my parents' original marriage. I got a half brother from my mom's second marriage. I have my stepsister Marcy from my dad's second marriage, and a whole bunch of stepbrothers from my mom's second marriage. But we kind of managed it all, and I learned from a lot of different people. They're all different folks. But the one big thing I think that I pull from my family, and you mentioned this earlier about my entrepreneurial spirit, is my dad was always an entrepreneur. And so I learned, and it was Father's Day this past weekend, of course, and so I was reflecting on this a lot, is that a lot of the things I think I learned from my dad growing up was this spirit of how to kind of look for something fun and exciting and new. And that's the entrepreneurial spirit, isn't it? It's trying to find something that's just little bit cutting edge, a little bit different,
Yeah.
but at the same time not unrecognizable to everybody else, that they won't engage with you on your ideas,
Yeah,
right?
that's
You know,
true. That's
can't
true.
be too far out of left field, because people won't pay attention to you. They just think you're crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you got one or two
Mhm.
of those ideas too from time to time.
Yeah, every once in a while I throw someone out there and everybody's going, I don't get it yet, Jeff. I go, don't worry.
Yeah.
Even the existence I'm living right now, it's taken a lot of time for people to understand the system we've built for like after school programs and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like, people used to say, okay, so we rent the space? No, we give the space away. Oh, how's that helpful? Let me tell you.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, I'm sure I have those conversations a lot.
well, I'll tell you about that. It's about currency, right?
Yeah.
What are you getting paid in?
Yeah.
And we can rent a space out in a school after school and get paid $15 an hour for it,
Yeah.
or we can get paid in the connectivity, or we
Yeah.
get paid in the building of skills that are different in that hour and a half period of time, and we can get paid in smiles and laughter from kids, and
Yeah.
the energy beaming out of a school after 3 o'clock, which I think
Yeah.
is a fantastic currency to start looking for, instead
Yeah.
of just chasing a dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$15.
Mhm.
But what kind of character do you think it built in you as you were growing up?
Oh yeah, I think it helped. Okay, so my family life definitely built my resilience, some independence, and some resilience.
Hmm.
It helped me. Uh, I had to detach from things that were hard, like at home. Like, oh, that's hard. Two older sisters, yeah, that's difficult. So I had to detach from that and look
Yeah.
elsewhere to build up my my own skills and my own understanding of who I was. And of course, my dad. I was always with my dad. Like, so through each of the kind of divorces and separations and leaving into in our home life, is I was always living with my dad. So constantly that business spirit and the free enterprise mindset was
Yeah.
always there, and that's like a positive outlook. You think
Yeah,
about
yeah.
there's very few people who are good at starting up businesses or running business or being an entrepreneur who don't have like a lot of outward enthusiastic energy.
Oh,
Right?
yeah,
There's
that's true.
very few humdrum people that are
Yeah.
successful at they're not saying, "No, I'm just going to stay home today and hope it happens for me." No.
No, it's not gonna
So yeah, I got that kind of
Yeah.
pick up and go from my dad and from that from that home life.
Okay. So let's talk about, as a student, you were a teacher by trade, like what I said. Your training is as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But you were growing up, what kind of student were you?
Right.
And I remember you mentioned, like, so what did you discover when you were in grade 6,
Right.
staring at the
I
chalkboard?
remember we talked about this. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there was a moment in grade 6. And I was never, in my elementary school days, never. I think I might have mentioned I was socially driven. So
Yeah.
I see that in a lot of young kids, and I never get panicky when I see that in other kids, because I remember this time in grade 6 when I was looking at the chalkboard in Mr. Wiles' classroom at Pleasant Side Elementary. I think near the end, I remember it was a warm day out too, so it had to be near the end of the school year, and I was going, I don't have a clue what all that means. 12 years old, everybody else is writing the test. I know the test is like, and I was going, I don't know how to do any of that. It's the end of the year in grade 6, and I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I got through grade 6. I got through grade 7. Grade 8 was, a transition year, which I know from my work is one of those times when we have to kind of take measure of how kids are doing. And I know that my sisters were taking measure of how I was doing and my stepmom when I got to grade 8.
Sounds like that's not a good idea.
No, it was actually a really good thing, because eventually they convinced me that I shouldn't wear dirty clothes every day and show up to school like I just rolled out of bed. That's a time where you're getting a little bit older, turning into a teenager, and you don't think anybody's noticing, but everybody notices. So. And that was the other big thing about school, is that there was a time with all of a sudden my stepmom, my sister convinced me that people were taking notice of, who you are, how you presented yourself. And that's kind of when I got that in line, I went out shopping with Faye, my stepmom, and she bought me all these newer clothes that were kind of more appropriate for the time. I probably was wearing jeans that I'd growing out of from grade 7 or 6, by the time I was in grade 8. But I fixed up that outward perception that people had of me,
Mm.
and my schoolwork followed. So it actually instilled this kind of idea in me that if you care about how you present yourself to other people, and you care about the way you look, and in terms of how it's presented to other people, what they might think of you as a result of that. I know that kind of sounds, ooh, that sounds pretty shallow, Jeff. It's not shallow. It's actually a sense of pride that you instill and how you, and you can be proud of anything that you've got going on. Like, you know, if you're a rock and roll guy like my son, and you want to wear your hair long and a Metallica t-shirt and you wear it with pride, then
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. It's that instill, like you develop a sense of yourself, and once you get a little bit of confidence in who you are and the self in you as a young person, then for me, the schooling or the grades kind of followed along. Like I started doing better with that sense of pride and confidence behind me.
Wow.
So you can imagine, sorry, Jackie, you can imagine how that feeds my work now. I want grade 6s and 7s and kids before they get to grade 9 in high school. I want them to have a really good sense of who they are. And to get to that stage, you have to have a rounded bunch of experiences. And so the work that I'm doing, that we all do together in the community, is hopefully pushing kids into trying a whole bunch of different things so that they can find themselves, that they can find a sense of confidence in who they are and some pride in it, so that when they do move forward in grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, that they're doing so with some pride and then hopefully the same success that I found when I was a little bit older.
Okay. But anyway, though, so how would you describe the rest of your high school year, not just like, you know, in grade 7 and 8, like all the way until in high school? So how would you describe that though in those times?
Well, I felt like probably most kids is some pressures to fit in socially. So there was a lot of, you know, social drive on me. A separation from family. And that was true of everybody, not just ones that had gone through divorces like I had. Like, so there's a natural pull away for when you're in grades and the higher grades in school. Your family's less influential on you, and your friends in your peer group are more influential on you. So that definitely was true of me. And so as I you know got a job and was playing sports and going to school, I was finding, you know, you start to find yourself a little bit more. Pardon me, the influences on me were coming from my friendship groups and my my sports, which was my friendship groups. And so that's how things really formed up for me in high school. I was not a great student. I was not terrible. I wasn't great. I was better in maybe some of the humanities and written and expressing myself than I was in some of the maths and the sciences. But I buckled down and managed to get the kind of the grades that I needed to get into SFU my first year out of university, out of high school. So
what kind of how does sport fit into this picture in your high school year?
In my last few years, high school, it gave me identity. You know, like I was a jock, and well, that's just the way it is, right? You can name them. You can name us. We're a bunch of jocks, right? Played 3 sports a year at the school and some of the communities, you know, and we tried everything that we could, and we wanted to do well. And we had the same teammates from grade 8 all the way to grade 12. We were all the same guys, and there's only 3 high schools at the time: Port Moody, Terry Fox, and Centennial. And they were only grade 11 and 12, and all the other ones were junior highs. But for the most part, we'd played in school with the same guys from grade 8, 9, and 10, and then in grade 11 and 12. And the same sports too, right? So our coaches were really important to us. Our teammates were really important to us. And the structure that sports provided for us was important for understanding how we got through a school year. We knew that September was football, and then winter was this one, and then spring was rugby, and then you know, Monday to Friday we're gonna leave school after school and go you know, wrestle or or play football or whatever it was. So it gave structure, right?
So a lot of sport essentially.
Oh, for me,
and that's why, you know, you want to be a PE teacher, and you met a few coach that was your role model
for sure.
And what attributes that you look up to them and that makes you want to become a PE teacher? This episode is brought to you by JW Music Studio. Jeff's story highlights the meaningful role an informal mentor can play in a child's development and personal growth. Piano teachers don't just instruct, they listen, encourage, and walk alongside each student through challenges and milestones. Over time, these weekly lessons become a space for informal mentorship. Whether it's a young beginner or a teen discovering their voice, students find a consistent, caring presence in their teacher. Someone who believes in them both as musicians and as individuals. Find out more at jnwmusic.ca.
Okay, so two of the guys that really made a huge impact on me were a guy named Vern Fedoric,
Okay.
who I absolutely love to this day. I still keep in contact with him once in a while. He always had a really cool life view, but the one word that stands out that he taught me was tenacity. I didn't even know what that word was before Vern taught me that word. So tenacious was a kind of a way of being that I liked. When he told me what that was, I go, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And tenacity, of course, is that kind of a fierce kind of desire to either succeed or achieve or whatever, get to the goal, and keep after it.
Yeah.
Because tenacity kind of also indicates that might not be just a smooth ride to that, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and that's a really good resilience kind of tool to have is like tenacity. So tenacity allows you to overcome difficulties. Tenacity allows you to readjust, refocus, and move again. So tenaciously getting after what you're trying to achieve is something that. And Vern was really good at teaching me that. And a couple other guys that I really liked, and women that were important over the years from teaching perspectives. Sometimes there's a teacher that kind of shows you a bit of yourself that you don't want to see. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but I think some teachers are good at actually doing the hard work of saying, hey, take a look at this. It's not as good as you think it is. You know what I mean? And there was this one teacher, her name was Miss Novak, I remember, and she just wanted me to be more mature. And I remember thinking, shut up. Like, I don't need to be more mature, right? But when I thought back about it, she was probably right. I could have been a little bit more mature and not as dorky and always joking and all that. Miss Parks was like that too. She was my typing teacher at Port Moody. She's like, Jeff, you're hilarious, but you're really being disruptive. Can you just go to the hallway? Go take your walk, That's great. I mean, those are all things that you can reflect on from your high school and your school years that you'll learn, and it's not all just the people that sang your praises that are going to give you the tools that you need to be successful.
And one of the things I remember we were talking about is when you were in grade 11, you want to quit the wrestling team.
Oh yeah, okay. So
what did your coach say?
Well, another guy who's really important to me, his name is John Simpson. He helped me get my job. He was a principal at Pine Tree when I first became a teacher. But at the time, he was my wrestling coach and my social studies teacher. And I had been to Japan with the wrestling team when I was a little bit younger. And he was pretty disappointed. In grade 11, I kind of succumbed to that. I didn't want to work that hard in wrestling. And football season was long. And I had all these really good reasons to me why I shouldn't wrestle this year in grade 11.
Okay.
And John he never said, that's okay, Jeff. He never let me just go on that one. He really made sure that I knew that he was disappointed in me. Because I mean, that's just all there is to it. It's like, I liked him and he was disappointed in me. And that was tough, but I got back to wrestling the next year, but I quit and he just said, I don't like it, and he never changed his position on that.
Okay.
And I don't think it didn't stop us from developing a relationship further. And over the years, when I became a teacher, didn't hold that against me for quitting wrestling in grade 11. But, I still reflect on it and think about, wow, there's some people that you just don't want to disappoint in the world, and one of them is John Simpson.
But you still quit, in a sense. You still quit, but
Yeah, I
he
did.
just give you his peace of mind, basically.
Okay, so he told me what he thought of it, and he didn't change his mind just because I wasn't changing mine, and we just agreed to disagree, and I went away, and you know, upon reflection, I just wanted more time to be social, and I didn't,
Oh, okay.
and it was hard. Wrestling was hard.
Okay.
It was really hard. It was the hardest one for me to wrap my head around. It was also the only individual sport of the sports I played as a real team guy. So.
Oh,
But I got back into it in grade 12 and had a really fun, successful grade 12 wrestling season. It was worth it.
So through it all, though, you went to SFU. Eventually, like we said, you
started
good
at
enough.
SFU, did not do so well.
Yeah, what happened in the first year?
I got smashed by the realities of academic rigor.
Okay.
Yeah, no, SFU is not successful for me right out of the gate. I would adjusting to the schedule of a college life was not the same for me. It was it didn't seem like I was much different than high school. I was taking the bus to SFU from the same house I lived in grade 12. It didn't seem like a great university experience, you know. Didn't put my best effort into it, and I went on to academic probation after my first semester. I did try to play football up there, but I wasn't physically prepared for that. Those guys were huge, and I just wasn't. It wasn't quite hitting my growth spurt yet, and so that wasn't keeping me interested in school. And so again, academic probation, and then I told my dad that I wanted to not go back for the second semester, and I had a big plan to go to Douglas College and then transfer back when I got better. But my dad didn't like that. He said, no, you got to go back for one more try. Yeah. But I put about the same effort into it as I did the first time around. It went from being on academic probation to being tossed out academic ineligibility. You know, you get poor enough grades, they're just not going to let you continue at SFU, and that's what happened. Okay. So I had to kind of reset and figure out what was going to be next for me. Yeah. And that's when I kind of went back to that plan of working part-time, going to school part-time at Douglas College, and building up enough transfer credits over some time to get back into university. Okay. Yeah.
And so you had a plan, and I think also you were expressing your desire to be a PE teacher to your father. What was his response?
Okay. So I did tell him my dad was a business guy, an entrepreneur, and actually didn't have great experiences in his own schooling. So his least favorite people in the world were teachers. He is not a union guy, my dad. So, you know, for me to join the one of the biggest unions in British Columbia as a teacher, it made him a little bit crazy. But that's okay. We learned to disagree with people, and he was outspoken about it, probably as outspoken about that as John Simpson was about me quitting wrestling. You know? But that's okay, you know. Like this is a trend, right? Like you come up against people you care about. My dad, John Simpson. Yeah. You differ with them, but you have ideas that are different than theirs. But it's not like everything they say is going to be what exactly you do. And when you have differences of opinion with people that you care about, they'll respect you for making your choice and sticking to it. And then that's what happened. My dad respected my opinion and tells me to these days, he says, I respected your opinion to become a teacher. You planned it out really well. It's been really successful for you, and it's been good for your family and the amount of time I'm able to spend with my family. It's on the same schedule as my kids in school and stuff like that. So becoming a teacher was an important one, and my dad recognizes it now, even though at the time he did not want me to be a union guy. But I get that.
Yeah, okay.
I get the attitude. Some people see the union people as you know, when my dad used to describe it as guys that would lean on their shovels. Okay. 3 guys leaning on a shovel, 1 guy in the hole digging.
They still talk about that sometimes.
Yeah,
but anyway, what exactly did you plan though in that? Perhaps we can say the gap years when you're trying to get things back to the university. What was your exact plan?
I had some work to do. I was still playing sports in the community. I was going to Douglas College part-time. I was working as a produce guy, as a bartender. I worked in a tile warehouse, and all these things. But throughout that period of time, I was also volunteering as a football coach at Port Moody Secondary, with a really cool, fun coaching staff of young PE teachers that had been to university at McGill, where I eventually went, and come to Vancouver to teach, and ended up at Port Moody and Coquitlam. So one guy named Paul Kerr, who's actually I think down at Pine Tree right now, working still, and another guy named Mark Tifo, who is the head coach of football at Port Moody, and he's back lives in Quebec again now. But those guys really kind of helped me kind of get back on the I need to go to university, I need to get my degree, and I need to be a PE teacher. Because I knew driving the forklift at the tile warehouse, although it was fun, driving a forklift around, it wasn't. I couldn't do it for that many more years.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys like the no examples about how I didn't want to live. I didn't want to be, my age now, like 53 years old, and still lifting heavy boxes every morning and putting them on a forklift thing. Doing that kind of work the rest of my life. I wanted to be in education and influencing kids and teaching kids and being active around them, and that's basically what drove me.
But did you ever worry in that period of time? Do you ever worry, with the planned work or
yeah. I mean, that defined stress. That's because there's a point in your life where you start recognizing what stress really is, and you become aware of it. So you become aware of your stress. You might have had stress as a young kid, but you didn't know what it was. Yeah. Right? It was just, you were worried about something. Yeah. I remember being anxious about some things as a kid, but I didn't know that. I couldn't name it stress. Yeah. But by the time I got to all that kind of planning for, applying to university, getting to school, getting to the high school to do the football coaching, it was busy. It was stressful. And you never knew if I always thought, am I capable of all this? Am I gonna, I remember when I was at Douglas College and applying to McGill, are they really gonna let me in there? I mean, I failed out of SFU. What are we gonna do about that? How am I any better now? You start questioning yourself. Have I learned anything in the last 3 years at Douglas College and being a volunteer in the community and working and doing all that stuff? But you do, when I was 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, it's a pretty significant chunk of your time, and your brain's changing. You're hopefully by that time you're starting to develop the frontal lobe of your brain a little bit more with the more experiences that you have, and that's science, right? And so that's what was going on for me. So I was starting to feel the stress, but also not getting scared of the stress. So I was recognizing that the stress can be a driver or it can be a barrier, and I only had one choice. I didn't have plan B anymore. I think I was on plan B or C. That's true.
It's no more plan.
Yeah.
So eventually you graduated from McGill with all the struggle, I would think, or difficulty a bit you have gone through.
Yeah, well, I think the struggle made me strong enough to go, and then I separate myself even further to move to Montreal for 3.5 years and finish all my formal education, my bachelor's degree, and get a teaching certificate. And you had to really kind of zone in on the schooling part of it when you're in university to get the pieces done and all the little pieces in place. That helps with focus, right? And again, more frontal lobe development. And by the time you're 25 and have a bachelor's degree underneath your belt, then you're probably ready to go and try to start a career, right? So that was really helpful. Just the final 3.5 years of my education was away from the Tri-Cities and away from the things I'd been doing, Douglas and the rugby and the football. Although I did play football at McGill still. It was helped me stay focused, like all sports we're doing. It helped me meet a group of athletes and people that were like me.
Wow.
At JW's Music Studio, we offer more than just music lessons. We also nurture future leaders in music education. Our piano teacher apprenticeship program is an initiative designed for advanced piano students who are ready to take the next step from student to teacher. This program provides a structured, supportive pathway into music teaching. Participants are mentored through every stage, from interview and training to guided teaching and independent lessons, all while being compensated as they grow. Whether your teen is exploring a career in teaching or simply wants to deepen their connection to music, this program offers real-world skills in a safe, encouraging environment. Contact us today at jnwmusic@yahoo.ca.
But interestingly, though, I think that helps you to have a new idea or new sense. Well, or may I say, you learn a valuable lesson about parenting too, right? And you always say like holding on to your kids a bit longer, right? What do you mean by that from your experience?
Yeah. Okay. So, it came from a conversation I had with a friend who'd read a good book. I can't remember who the author was, but the idea was that he presented to me was to kind of your kids are going to go find their way at some point in their lives. They're going to kind of turn away from you. Like I remember I told you, for me, it was grade 11, 12. I turned mostly to my friends for my social, for my decision-making and for my influence. Yeah. And that's going to happen no matter what. That's just human nature, right? Yeah. And so the idea or the information that I tell the parents is to stay, and for myself, is to stay interested in what your kids are interested in as long as you can, right? And hopefully put yourself in a position where you can be the one that they turn to for guidance and help, and that when you do offer the help to your kids, that they're gonna listen, or they're gonna hear you. Okay. And then as a parent, you're holding on to them a little bit longer and trying to give them as much as they need. But at some point, I think you're going to recognize that advice has got to be inside what they can perceive. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be logical to them. Yeah. So some of the advice my dad gave me was outside of logic to me. I'm going, are you paying attention to what I'm doing here? I'm in school now to become a PE teacher, but you're telling me to join your business. That's not, they don't jive. Yes. So, my dad was holding on to me tight there. Didn't want me to go down the alley that I was going down. At some point, we're going to have to let them do what they're going to do. Yeah. So in order to keep them, our kids under our influence longer, we have to align ourselves with the things that they recognize that they're starting to tell us, and that's important. Yeah. I'm recognizing it right now with my own son Holden. He's kind of coming to the end of his rope with karate. He's been doing it for 7 or 8 years, and it's been a good influence on him, but it's getting harder and harder for him to go and enjoying himself. And he's kind of made a decision on himself that he doesn't want to go anymore. And so we've had this conversation, and I'm trying to, assert some of my ideas about what's important about it, but they're not in line with his ideas, right? And so I'm trying to tell him things that I've learned through my own experiences, but he can't just hear those words out of my mouth and just adopt them. He's actually got to have to live some of those things. So when I quit wrestling and John Simpson told me that he didn't approve, and I had to live with that. Yeah. Right. Holden told his sensei last night that he wasn't going to continue with karate. And the sensei didn't agree with it either. Oh. So now Holden's got to go through the same thing. He's got to deal with the fact that someone who is important to him doesn't agree with what the decision that he's making, right? So for me to hold on to my kids longer, I've got to make sure that my expectations and my wants and needs of them are also in line with what they're expressing to me. They need that. It can't just be my way or the highway. Yeah. And I'll be able to hold on to my kids and keep my kids' attention a lot longer. Yeah. And more impactfully if I'm in line with what I'm hearing and understanding from them. Yeah. And that requires some skills on their part. They've got to be able to tell me those things, and I've got to be able to hear those things. So that tells you about the importance of building that strong relationship with your kids as they move along. Yeah,
but also it's a sense of timing too, from what you say, because some of the things I think in your own experience too, right? Some of the things you're not there.
You're not ready to listen. I wasn't ready to listen to my dad tell me what was most important for me all the time. I mean, man, this is a reoccurring theme.
Yeah.
Even in literature, we see it all the time. We see movies about it.
Yeah.
About parents trying to use their own experiences and wisdom to impart on their kids. And I think we just learn that there are some things that have to be experienced in order to learn, right? And I've talked a little bit about brain development today, and I think that physically, with the brain not being fully developed in kids until they're in their 20s and sometimes even their 30s, to be honest with you. They're not ready to learn the lessons that you've learned, and you're imparting. I'm 53, imparting wisdom on my 13-year-old. It's not going to be as well received. And we just have to learn to accept that. And work with it.
Be patient.
Be patient. Accept that the experiences that our kids that are having, keep encouraging those, and because they're going to learn from those experiences.
So eventually they understand too,
so
right?
Hold them when you can, but you got to let them go. So there's a bit of a dance there, and the timing is really important. I don't think you ever really just okay, let them go. That's never the case, But you do have to let them fly. Sometimes you have to reel them in.
But holding on to them anyway. You know, as long as you can. I think that's
because they're going to leave anyway. So so staying involved as long as you can is really critical. But how you do that, of course, is important if you want to be impactful.
Yeah, that's true too. So after Phoenix and McGill, you actually teach at the high school you went.
That's right.
So was it an accident? Was that a choice?
Well, I mentioned that I had been coaching at that school because that's where I had made my my own connections and such. And so one of the guys that I'd been coaching with, he was Mark and Paul, those two guys. They sent me off to Montreal. They're the ones that basically convinced me to go to McGill University. But when I came back, I reconnected with them, and so it was helpful. They were really helpful in getting me some work back. So I started by trying to be a teacher on call, and that lasted about 3 weeks before Mark had convinced the vice principals at Port Moody Secondary, where I went to school, that I would be a great addition to their staff because I could coach wrestling and football and do whatever job and I would do anything in terms of teaching, which is true. I would do anything. I taught. At my first year there at Port Moody, I was hired at Port Moody in like October, November of 1998, I think it was. Back at my old high school, and I was teaching math 11 alternate. Social studies 9 alternate, math 9 alternate. Those are my 3 courses. So 1 social studies class and 2 math classes for kids that were not so great in math, which is perfect because I wasn't great in math either. But I was taking over for a teacher who was not as willing to just kind of accept those kids for where they were at. He was an older teacher that was on his last year teaching. He's a nice guy. I knew him well, just from my after I started working there. I got to know him. But I took over some classes that were just the kids were out to lunch to him. Like he just couldn't understand these kids these days, And I was young. I was 25 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I took on these kids that were crazy. They were. I mean, I'm actually still friends with some of them. I think they're about 42 or 40. 41, 42 years old right now, and I knew a few of them in the community, and they're neat kids, and they were hard to handle at the time.
Okay. Can you share the story that when you first teach a math class, rather clean though? Okay.
I'll keep it short, but
keep it clean too.
That same math class that I walked into was my first day. And there's a student, her name is Bianca Bryan. I still know her. She runs daycares in North Van. And I walked in and she was just sitting there. And I said, "Hi, how's it going?" She goes, "Good." She says, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm the teacher." She goes, "Get out of here." She couldn't even believe it because the day before the teacher was Mr. A, he had gray hair and he was
Yeah.
angry, and kind of when he walked in, and here's this young teacher coming in, and I didn't look much different than them,
Oh yeah, that's true. Because you're 25.
So she didn't know who I was, and then I told her as a teacher, she goes, "Get out of here." She might have said it a little differently than that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure she did.
Yeah.
Okay, but then like, so what did you learn though? Obviously, the class is with a bunch of perhaps a little bit more difficult students. They're not
Oh
performing.
yeah, no,
very-
fully difficult.
fully
Yeah.
difficult.
And that Math 11A, A stood for alternate at the time. We don't even have that anymore.
Oh.
So it's like you mess up this time, you fail grade 11. We're gonna put you in the alternate class, with a whole bunch of kids that failed, the year before. But
Okay.
we're just trying to get you through here. We've changed our ways of doing that a little bit, but at the time we would just load that class up. There would be like 15 or 16 kids that
Fail math.
these days would never all be in the same classroom. Right? There's no way they would put those 16 kids all in one classroom with one teacher. Okay? There's just no way they'd do it. But they did with me, and you learn a lot about what's important to kids when you're teaching them. And again, it's where I've fallen in my career now is that I'm trying to affect the way young people feel as they approach their learning, and the confidence that they have in themselves as they approach their learning. And if you do that, and I learned in those teaching those Math 11 alternate classes, that if you just readjust what success looks like and just kind of stretch yourself a little bit at a time, not too far at a time, right? Any kid can find success, and you can rewire a kid's brain over time to look for success. If you really manage, what success is. Because if success is just too far up for them, and there's not a bunch of little steps along the way, many of them won't make the big leap. But all of them will make little leaps. And some you kind of think, man, they leave you. They're 17 or something like that, and they go off and they're graduate. They get a dogwood certificate. And they get out of high school. A few years later, you catch up with them, and they're still been making little steps, and now they own an ice cream shop. Now they own a T-shirt business, and now they have daycares, and now they're a mom. Now they're parents. There's lots of things that go on in their lives that they just follow this path of little steps. And I think we all can do that. And some people are capable of giant steps all at one time and absorbing a lot. But other people, and I'd say most that I've met that are young people, need to have really reasonable small steps at a pace that they can manage. But sure enough, time is their friend, and they'll get along.
Okay. And also relationship is also a very important part to you learn. Can you explain that a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Well, we've referred back to all these influences all day as we're talking here, and that's the truth. That eventually everybody's got to find their people, okay, and at each of the stages of development in their life, right? So my people, I heard you talking about in my school, were my sports guys friends. Later in life, they were the guys at Douglas College that were in my life, and then at McGill. You always find your people. And sometimes the relationships you form with people are socially driven, but other times there's these informal kind of mentorships that form between you and a person. And then I think those are really important ones. The adult to kid relationship, where it is not necessarily always easy, right? I think that we have to have some relationships where the teacher that showed me the mirror, Jeff, the one that sent you to the hallway and just made you think about it. The sensei that told my son Holden that, maybe you need that. You need the hardness of it, And so those are the kind of relationships that I think are really important, but they might be the most difficult these days to achieve. Because way more people, way more options. It's easy to quit this and start that again. A lot of things where tenacity might not play a role, right? It might just be easier to try something else instead of stick with it, or maybe someone tells you what you're not good at or what you could improve upon, and you take it and take it as a slight as opposed to a critical friend, you know. And but yeah, those relationships are important ones, and they're not always easy.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard being the bad guy when you're a mentor to young people and you're trying to help them improve. And at some point, you got to kind of draw this line in the sand that's going to say, there could be a casualty here. I'm going to tell them some truth right now, and they're going to blame me for it.
Yeah.
And you got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
As a parent, you got to be ready for it.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
as a teacher too.
And as a teacher, almost every day you got to be ready for it. No, you're not going home. You're going to sit right there and finish that exercise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, but interestingly though, after being a teacher for 13 years, like what you say, you were teaching for 13 years.
Correct.
At the school.
Correct.
You did not choose to advance your career as a principal or other position related to teaching. Well, but you still consider a teacher.
Yeah.
But took on this position.
Right.
So why you make this choice?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I knew I was done with the kind of energy I thought I needed to be a good teacher.
Okay.
So the energy I was exuding to my students, the feedback I was getting was saying that I was tired and not as energetic.
Oh, really?
Okay, so that because I prided myself in being able to read my audience, and I think that there were some messages coming back to me through my own interactions with kids where I didn't have the right energy to be as good of a teacher as I could have been. So I started looking around and thinking about what might be next. I took a few roles. One role I took was like an assistant kind of principal, like a vice principal for one of our vice principals that was away at Port Moody. I went into the office and I was an acting vice principal for a little while. And I found it a little, I know, and they didn't give me all the load, but I found it a little narrow in the perspective, from the perspective of what kind of work I might do if I took on that role. Okay. And I spoke to a lot of other vice principals, and to being a vice principal, you're really kind of come down to being the heavy. You know, you spend a lot of your time, from what I observed, with kids that were in trouble, or with teachers that needed your help, with a kid who's causing trouble. You're talking to parents about how much trouble their kids are in. You're talking to staff members who were doing something wrong, so you're trying to help the staff member stay out of trouble. You know what I mean? You know, it just seemed like a lot of trouble. You know, like so I started looking around at what other kinds of things were available. And I didn't actually see this job. I didn't know what this job was. A vice principal, actually, a principal at the time. Her name was Lisa Rinke.
Scott Creek, right?
Yeah, she's at Scott Creek now, She was a vice principal at Port Moody for a time, and that's where we got to know each other. But she was the principal up at Miller Park when she told me about this job. And so she sent me the job description that they had written for it. And it's like pages long of words I didn't understand. But I knew that it was in an office, at the board office, with better pay, you know, and so I just said, I'm gonna apply for it. And I went and did the interview, and it turned out the skills they were looking for were these kind of entrepreneurial skills that I had hidden. And I think many teachers have entrepreneurial skills, but trying to find in a behavioral interview that you get in education these days, they're going to ask you not just if you have the skill, but how you've applied the skill in your work, right? And so my interview went well because I had coached football and I had to find sponsorship for football, and my dad was an entrepreneur, and I'd watched his business, and I'd done some sales work for him. I had many examples of how I've applied entrepreneurial spirit in as an athletic director, a football coach, and all the things that I'd done to that point. So I interviewed well for the job and got it. And then I found out that there is no real folder because nobody had ever done this job before. You know, the reason I didn't understand the words on the job description was that there were just a whole bunch of things that the assistant superintendent who wrote the job description didn't want to do anymore.
Oh.
She didn't want to go to these types of meetings. She
Yeah.
didn't want to return these types of phone calls.
Yeah.
She didn't want to, yeah, but she did want to pursue after-school programs.
Yeah.
They did want to pursue grants and funding opportunities.
Yeah.
And they did want to liaise better with mental health, Fraser Health organizations,
Yeah.
and she didn't want to sit at the tables that were, the school district's role for promoting community health,
Yeah.
which is another one of the big things I do. So. All the things that she didn't want to do in one job description, which turned into the Community Connections and Healthy Living Coordinator. So we took a job district coordinator. We
Yeah.
took these two kind of big portfolios and put them in there.
Yeah.
And then I started trying to make sense of it all over the
Okay.
next. And I've been doing that for, I think I'm in my 14th year.
Oh yeah.
So
oh yeah, that's
I've
right.
eclipsed my years teaching as a district coordinator now.
Yeah. Why this position give you fulfillment at this point after 14 years?
Right. It switches from just giving you fulfillment for like you just want it to survive. Because the idea is that over the last 14 years, I've built a lot of systems for doing things, for connecting kids and connecting the community and building a healthy community and creating community assets that families can access. And I want to protect it because I believe in them, because I've done work that I believe is good work, and the things that we put in place I believe are good. But I've also operated in a bit of a silo, just in the sense that what I've been doing for the school district is not traditional school stuff, right? It's built to I'm coordinating programs and ideas, and some of it's becoming more normalized. Like the idea of a good slate of after school programs in your school is a normal thing now, and it wasn't before. The idea that a breakfast program and thinking about nutrition for all kids in your school and to sustain their learning and even to help them at home if they need it is a good thing for most schools to think about. I want to make sure that the systems I've built stick. And so right now my motivation is legacy. And I learned that from another entrepreneur, a guy named Matt Young, who used to own Innovative Fitness and all sorts of good things. And he used to coordinate. He spent a full 1/4 of his time making sure that the businesses that he built had a legacy that continued beyond him. Right? And so what was the legacy part of what you're doing? And a lot of people attribute legacy work to like ego work, but that's not, I'm going to be clear about it. That's not, I'm not trying to say, oh, we got to remember Jeff built this. Jeff did this. This is community work.
Yes.
And I believe thoroughly that the work that we've done is helpful and are truly assets to our community. Like reliable summer camps, reliable after school programming, opportunities to do coding with people who aren't necessarily teachers, but maybe someone who owns a coding store or a coding business or a computer or music or anything that they want to do. I believe those things and the experiences that kids get from them are useful. Yeah. And I want them to stick around. I want them to be part. Yeah. Because oftentimes the person that's driving it goes away. Yeah. And the whole momentum goes away because it hadn't built enough momentum on its own. But so that's what's motivating me, is that making sure that enough people are involved and understand the work, and so that when I retire and when other people start taking over this kind of work, that they've got a good base of work to support, and that the families and the kids in the Tri-Cities that are getting used to the products and the opportunities and the experiences that we're giving them they're still there. Yeah. Yeah. So that's motivating.
So what is the biggest challenge though in this position, and how do you overcome it?
The biggest challenge is communicating the value in words that are impactful enough that you don't have to use dollars to describe it. So, because remember we're talking about currencies, the different kinds of currencies. Yeah. So the biggest challenge is like, so if I'm talking to my bosses, they really are thinking about how much it's going to cost to do this, right? Yeah. So now I've got to convert their version of currency into like, okay, so it's going to cost us this much, but what are we buying? Right? So that kind of thing. And often in education over the years, when we spent money, we wanted to see like graduation rates increase. We wanted to see We wanted to see, when we spent money on this, we wanted to see outcomes that were very visible and tangible and, increased from what it was before to what it is now. And so, trying to take something that is inherently intangible and making it sound or be tangible so that people can understand is important for me and in my work. I always go back to this guy. His name is Steve Patty. He's one of my mentors and helped me understand through some other examples. But there's this guy. He was the president of the Czech Republic for a while. Václav Havel. And he was, coming out of a time when the Czechoslovakia and the Czech Republic were behind the Iron Curtain, right? And during communism, the communists would say, "You have schools, you have hospitals, and you have everything your society needs to be successful in a communist," right? But what he said was that yes, we have schools, and by all measures, just to have a school or an institution was a good thing, but it wasn't just to have it that was good. There was some more subtle parts of being in school or subtle parts of a health system that were more important. There were the parts that made you, they were the interesting things. They're the things that kept you involved. They're the things that you could do and you could feel good about. Not just having a classroom, because you could put anybody at the front of a classroom and kids in a classroom and say you've got a classroom. But if there wasn't a feeling to it or some fabric to it that was pleasing, that was entertaining, that was fun, then just having a school didn't matter, or just having a healthcare system didn't matter. It had to have life, and that life comes from the community and from the way that we interact with other people. And that was the difference between a successful community or a successful society and one that just had the parts. Is that woven in between the parts was a fabric of community and an understanding of one another and all the intricacies that go along with that made it what it was. It wasn't just a school because there's a teacher and there's a classroom. In that kind of communist type of block way where we
that's certainly no life
there, right? And the reason why that communism doesn't work is because there's no fabric to it. Is that if the people don't have say, if we don't listen to the kids that are going to the school to find out what they want, and we don't act on what they tell us, then we're not going to develop a fabric that will build their characters and build their self-esteem and their confidence. So we're just gonna get them bored, and that's a bored child is dangerous.
Well, that's true. Okay, just final question though. With all the experience that you have experienced and all the struggle that you have overcome and all the victory that you have won, perhaps, what advice and wisdom you would like to pass to the next generation?
This answer changes every time I'm asked.
Just about this moment.
All the really good things that I've learned. I think the idea that Vern Fedor taught me of being tenacious and just keeping at it. And that if you put in the effort, that something's gonna come your way. But it requires an input to get the output. So just being aware of what your input is. That's the good advice. It's like, okay, what part in all this am I playing? Like when it's a good situation, what part did I play? When it's a bad situation for me, what part did I play in that? So the advice, this big piece of advice is to be fully aware of what your role is in each of the situations that you're in, right? And on the good and the bad side of things, right? Of all the things I've seen in people is that the most trouble people get into when there's a lack of awareness of what role they're playing
Ah,
in the situation, right?
yeah.
So to me, that is social and emotional learning at its finest.
Yeah.
When you're able to understand or be aware of
Mm,
your role and what's gotten you here. So
yeah.
if your role was hard work and you are aware that you worked hard and got this outcome,
Mm.
that's a good thing. But also you should be aware that when you didn't work that hard and you face this outcome,
Yeah.
you should also recognize, well, my role in this one was that I didn't work that hard.
Yeah.
I shouldn't pass this problem off to somebody else if
Yeah.
if I'm aware of what my role in it was.
Yeah.
So, and that awareness, self-awareness about your role and whatever got you here.
Mm. Wow, that's so much more to talk about, really. Thanks so much for being here today, Jeff.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Jackie.
thank
This
you.
has been fun.
Yeah.
I hope things go well with your podcast. It seems pretty cool that you keep this going on, and look forward to listening to this one and some of the other ones.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot.